"I'll pay your father's debt, but you're my wife now," said the rancher. She had no choice. Red Mesa 7 was not like the old Earth in storybooks. The sky had two suns, one pale and one gold, and the wind smelled of iron dust and dry grass. The people who lived there did not talk much about comfort. They talked about water, fences, engines, and keeping what was theirs. Elias Kane owned one of the largest ranches on the edge of the Red Basin. He was not loud and he did not smile often, but the settlers respected him. They said he worked like a machine when the storms came and like a judge when trouble came. His ranch was known for its long fences made from smart wire, its solar towers, and its herd of tough cattle bred for thin air and hard travel. Not far from his land, in a dusty settlement called Juniper Ridge, Mara lived in a small house with her father. Her father, Silas Reed, once traded tools and medicine between towns. He had been honest for most of his life. But honesty did not protect a man when prices changed and corporations wrote the rules. A bad deal had crushed Silas like a boot on dry clay. He had borrowed credits to buy a water purifier, believing he could rent it to settlers during drought season. Then a corporate company arrived, selling the same machine cheaper, and they had the power to force everyone to buy from them. Silas lost his customers overnight. The debt grew with interest, and it grew fast. Mara had watched her father shrink day by day. His shoulders bent, his voice lost its strength. Some nights he stared at the wall for hours as if he could find a way out in the cracks. Mara worked where she could, packing rations, cleaning solar panels, helping neighbors, anything for a few credits. But it was never enough to catch a debt that ran like fire. One morning, corporate collectors arrived. They came in a sleek sand skimmer that hovered above the ground, leaving the dirt untouched, like it was too good to be part of the planet. 3 men stepped out in clean coats with metal badges on their belts. Their boots were polished, and that made the settlers watching from across the street angry in a quiet way. The leader held a tablet and spoke in a calm voice. "Silas Reed, you have failed to meet the scheduled payment. Under Frontier Recovery Statute, we are authorized to claim property equal to the amount owed. If property is insufficient, we claim the homestead." Silas tried to stand tall, but his knees shook. "Please," he said, "give me 1 more month. I can work, I can." The man did not look at him like a person. He looked at him like numbers. "Your request has been denied." Mara stepped forward. Her hands were clenched, but she kept her voice steady. "You can't take our home. There are laws." "There are laws," the leader replied, "and those laws are the reason we are here." The second collector moved toward the door, already marking items with a scanner. The third scanned the small solar battery outside, then the water tank. Their machines beeped like hungry insects. Mara felt heat rise in her face. She hated them. She hated the way they spoke, the way they moved like the whole town was made to be harvested. She glanced around for help, but people looked away. They had families, they had fears, and some of them had debts too. A new sound entered the street, the heavy hum of an engine that did not belong to a corporate skimmer. Heads turned. A rugged ground truck rolled in, throwing dust behind it. It was older than most vehicles in the settlement, but it was strong, built for storms and bad roads. The metal body was scratched and the tires were thick. The driver stepped out slowly. Elias Kane. He wore a coat the color of desert bark. A wide belt sat around his waist. His hair was dark and wind-tossed, and his face looked carved by sun and hard decisions. He did not rush. He did not shout. He simply walked toward the collectors like a man stepping into a storm he had seen before. The leader of the collectors raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Kane, this is not your concern." Elias looked at Silas, then at Mara, then back at the tablet. "What's the amount?" The leader tilted the screen toward him, almost proud. 240,000 credits plus accrued fees." A small wave of shock passed through the watching settlers. That number could crush a family, then crush the next family after that. Mara's stomach tightened. She had known it was bad, but hearing it out loud made it feel like a mountain on her chest. Elias nodded once, as if he was accepting the weight without needing to speak about it. He pulled out his own device, older and thicker than the collector's sleek tablets, and tapped it with calm fingers. The corporate leader smirked. "If you're thinking of paying, I should warn you, recovery fees." Elias lifted a hand. "I know." Within seconds, a transfer confirmation flashed on the leader's screen. The man's smile fell. The other 2 collectors paused mid-scan, as if their bodies didn't know what to do without the power of debt behind them. The leader cleared his throat. Payment received, he said, suddenly less confident. The claim is closed. The collectors turned to leave. Their skimmer rose, quiet and clean, and floated away like nothing had happened. For a moment, the street stayed silent. Wind moved through dry weeds near the fence line. A child across the road stared with wide eyes. Mara blinked, stunned. Her father's face looked pale, like the stress had drained his color. Elias, why? Silas asked. Elias didn't answer Silas first. He looked at Mara. We need to talk, he said. Mara's heart beat hard. She didn't like the way the town watched. She didn't like the way her life suddenly felt like it was standing on a cliff edge. But she followed him because refusing felt impossible. They stepped into the shade beside the old supply store. The air smelled of fuel and sun-baked wood. Elias stood with his back straight, hands resting near his belt. He was not trying to scare her, but his presence was strong in a way that made people listen. I paid the debt, he said simply. That means I now hold the repayment contract. Mara lifted her chin. So we owe you instead. Yes, Elias said, but not in the way you're thinking. Her eyes narrowed. Then explain. Elias took a breath, slow and careful. On this planet, the corporations use debt to trap people. They take land, they take homes, they push families until they have nothing left. I've seen it too many times. Mara didn't soften. That doesn't tell me why you paid for us. Elias met her gaze without flinching. Because if I didn't, they would take your home today, and next month they'd take someone else's. Mara swallowed. Part of her wanted to thank him. Another part wanted to run. So what do you want? Elias didn't speak for a second. When he did, his voice stayed steady. I want you safe, I want your father safe, and I need someone I can trust at my ranch. Mara's jaw tightened. You don't know me. I know enough, Elias said. You work hard, you don't break when things get ugly, and you don't bow your head to bullies. Mara's chest rose and fell. That still doesn't answer the real question. Elias finally said the words, plain and direct, like a man who hated games. I'll clear your father's debt completely, no repayment, but you come to my ranch under a legal marriage contract. Mara stared at him, shock hitting like cold water. What? It's not what you think, Elias said quickly, his tone firm but not harsh. On Red Mesa 7, there are protections for married partners under frontier law. It gives you legal standing. It makes it harder for corporations to target you. It also ties you to my land. That matters because they are watching me too. Mara felt her face burn. So I become part of your fight. Yes, Elias said, but you will not be treated like property. You will have your own room. Your own choices. If you ever feel unsafe, you can leave the ranch and the agreement ends. I'll sign that in writing. Her mind raced. The words wife now echoed like a chain, even if he spoke carefully. She looked at her father through the store window. Silas sat on a bench, holding his head in his hands. He looked like a man who had been drowning and just reached air, but he still didn't know how to breathe. Mara's throat tightened. She hated that this was happening. She hated that the world had pushed them into corners. Yet she also understood the truth. If Elias hadn't stepped in, they would be homeless by sunset. You're asking for my life, she said quietly. I'm offering you a shield, Elias replied, and I'm asking for partnership, not control. Mara's hands trembled, so she hid them behind her back. Why not hire me? Why not just help as a neighbor? Elias' eyes hardened for a moment. Because the corporations don't respect neighbors, they respect contracts. And they fear anything that binds land and people together outside their system. Mara looked away toward the dusty street. The settlement felt smaller now, like it was closing in. She remembered the collectors, clean boots and cold eyes. She imagined them returning, but next time with armed guards and legal papers. She turned back. If I say yes, she said, my father is free, no hidden fees, no future claims. Elias nodded. Free. And you swear, Mara said, voice sharp, that you won't treat me like something you bought? Elias didn't hesitate. I swear. Mara's heart hammered. She didn't feel like she had a real choice, not with the world as it was. But she could choose how she walked into the storm, with her eyes open, with conditions, with strength. She glanced at her father again. Silas looked up, meeting her gaze. His eyes were filled with apology and pain. He shook his head slightly like he wanted to say, don't do it. Mara took a slow breath and faced Elias' cane. Then we do it your way, she said. But understand this, if I'm coming to your ranch, I'm not coming as a silent shadow. I will work, I will speak, and I will not be trapped. A faint change touched Elias' face, something close to relief. That's exactly why I asked, he said. The wind rose again, carrying dust through the street. In the distance, far beyond Juniper Ridge, the horizon flickered with a strange pale light, too steady to be lightning, too quiet to be a storm. Mara didn't notice it yet. But Red Mesa 7 was already moving its pieces into place, and her new life was about to become far bigger than a debt. The journey to Elias Kane's ranch took almost 2 days. Mara sat inside the heavy ground truck, watching the desert move past like a slow river of dust and stone. The twin suns burned high in the sky, turning the air into shimmering waves. Strange rock formations rose from the ground like broken teeth, and long shadows stretched across the alien plains. Elias drove in silence most of the time. He did not seem like a man who needed many words. The engine's steady hum filled the space between them. Mara kept her thoughts close. Everything had changed too fast. One morning she was fighting to keep her home. Now she was traveling to a place she had never seen, tied to a man she barely knew. She watched him from the corner of her eye. His focus stayed on the road ahead. His hands were steady on the controls. He looked calm, but there was always a sense that he was watching more than just the path, as if he expected danger. "What kind of ranch needs this much distance from people?" she asked finally. Elias glanced at her briefly. "The kind that wants to stay alive." Mara frowned. "That's not a real answer." "It is on this planet," he said quietly. They drove through a narrow canyon as evening approached. Tall stone walls rose on both sides, painted red by the setting sun. Metal towers stood at intervals along the path, blinking with soft blue lights. "Defense systems?" Mara asked. "Yes," Elias said. "Mostly warning signals, sometimes more." Her stomach tightened. "You weren't joking when you said corporations watch you." "They watch anyone who refuses to sell," he replied. The canyon opened suddenly, revealing a wide valley below. Mara leaned forward, surprised. The ranch stretched across the land like a living machine. Solar panels turned slowly toward the fading light. Wind towers spun gently. Long fences moved on mechanical tracks, adjusting to the terrain. And beyond it all, a herd moved across the plain, large animals with strong legs and thick hides, their shapes slightly different from Earth cattle. Small drones hovered above them like silent birds. "It's bigger than I expected," Mara said softly. "It has to be," Elias answered. They drove toward a cluster of buildings near a small lake. Lights began to glow as darkness settled. Workers moved between structures, carrying tools and speaking over comm devices. Some paused to watch the truck arrive. Mara felt their eyes on her as she stepped out. "This is Mara," Elias said simply to the nearest worker, a tall woman with braided hair and grease on her hands. "She'll be staying." The woman nodded once, not curious, not judging. "Welcome," she said. "Name's Tessa." The simplicity surprised Mara. No whispers, no strange looks, just acceptance. Elias showed her a small house near the main building. Inside, it was clean and practical. A bed, a table, a window facing the open plains. "You don't have to decide anything tonight," Elias said. "Rest. Tomorrow we talk about work." He left before she could answer. Mara sat on the edge of the bed, listening to the distant sounds of machines and wind. She expected fear, but instead she felt something else, uncertainty mixed with quiet relief. For the first time in months, the future did not feel like a closed door. Morning came with soft light spilling through the window. Mara stepped outside and watched the ranch wake up. Workers moved quickly but without panic. Mechanical horses stood charging near a station. Drones lifted into the sky, scanning the horizon. Tessa approached, carrying 2 cups. "Coffee substitute," she said, handing one to Mara. "Real coffee costs too much to ship out here." Mara smiled faintly. "This will do." "You'll learn fast if you stay," Tessa said. "Nothing survives here without adapting." Mara noticed how everyone spoke of survival like it was normal. She joined Elias later near the herd. He handed her a small device. "Herd tracker. Shows location and health status." "You expect me to help already?" she asked. "If you want," he replied. "You said you wanted to work." Mara nodded and followed him across the field. The animals were massive but calm. Elias moved among them with quiet authority, checking tags and adjusting equipment. As the day passed, Mara began to understand the rhythm of the ranch. It was not just farming, it was constant defense against the planet itself. Sudden dust storms, equipment failures. Unknown signals on scanners. That evening, alarms beeped softly across the valley. Elias froze, eyes narrowing. "Stay here," he said. Mara ignored the order and followed him toward the command room. A holographic map floated above a table. A blinking red mark appeared near the canyon entrance. Unregistered drone, Tessa said. Corporate model. Mara felt cold. They found us already? Maybe just watching, Elias said. Outside, the sky darkened. Wind picked up, carrying sharp grains of sand. The drone hovered far away, barely visible against the clouds. Why don't they attack directly? Mara asked. Because they want legal ownership first, Elias said. Then they don't need weapons. The drone turned slowly, scanning the ranch. Mara realized something important then. This place was not just land. It was resistance. Later that night, she walked alone near the edge of the property. The stars above Red Mesa 7 were bright and strange. The twin moons hung low, casting silver light across the plains. She felt someone behind her. Elias stopped a few steps away. You shouldn't walk alone near the boundary. I needed air, she said. He nodded. Understandable. Silence stretched between them. Why me? She asked suddenly. You could have saved anyone. Elias took time before answering. Because you looked at those collectors without fear. I was afraid, she said quietly. But you still stood, he replied. Mara didn't know what to say. She turned toward the horizon. Then she noticed something strange. Far beyond the canyon, a pale light flickered beneath the ground like something waking up under the surface. Do you see that? She whispered. Elias' expression changed instantly. Yes, he said, and that's why the corporations want this land. The ground trembled slightly, almost like a heartbeat. Myra felt a mix of fear and curiosity rise inside her. Her new life was not just about survival or marriage contracts. Something ancient slept beneath the ranch, something powerful enough to draw attention from across the stars. And now she was part of it. The pale light beneath the ground did not disappear. It stayed there like a quiet signal calling from deep inside the planet. Mara stood beside Elias at the edge of the ranch as they watched the distant glow fade slowly into darkness. What is it? She asked. Elias did not answer right away. His eyes remained fixed on the horizon. Something old, he finally said. Older than this colony. Maybe older than humans on this world. Mara felt a chill run through her. And the corporations know about it? Yes, he said. That's why they keep pushing. This ranch sits right above something important. The wind moved through the tall alien grass, making soft whispering sounds. For a moment, the ranch felt small compared to whatever slept beneath the soil. The next morning brought tension. Scanners detected more movement near the canyon entrance. 2 drones instead of 1. They hovered just outside the property line, watching silently. Workers tried to act normal, but everyone noticed. Tessa approached Elias while Myra stood nearby. They're mapping the land now, she said. Not just watching. Elias nodded. They're preparing for a legal claim. Myra crossed her arms. But you own this land. Ownership doesn't always matter, Elias said. They look for technical weaknesses, old laws, forgotten rules. Myra thought of her father and how quickly corporations had taken everything. Fear mixed with anger inside her. What can we do? She asked. Elias looked at her. We stay strong, and we learn more about what's under our feet. Later that day, Elias led a small team toward the canyon where the light had appeared. Mara insisted on coming. At first he refused, but she did not step back. I'm part of this now, she said firmly. He studied her face, then nodded once. They rode mechanical horses designed for long-distance travel. The machines moved smoothly over rocks and sand, their metal legs adjusting to every change in terrain. The sky darkened as clouds gathered. A storm was coming. When they reached the canyon, Mara noticed strange patterns on the stone walls, smooth lines that did not look natural. Are those carvings? She asked. Elias scanned the surface with a handheld device. Not carvings. Energy marks? They followed the readings deeper into the canyon until they reached a narrow opening partly hidden by rockfall. Inside, the air felt cooler. Lights from their equipment revealed a large underground chamber. The walls glowed faintly, like veins of soft blue light running through stone. Mara stepped closer, feeling both fear and wonder. This isn't human, she whispered. No, Elias agreed. At the center of the chamber stood a circular platform. As they approached, the light beneath it pulsed gently. Suddenly, a holographic image appeared, faint shapes moving like distant stars. Mara gasped. The image shifted, showing symbols and maps. None of them could read it, but the feeling was clear. This place had a purpose. What is it trying to show? She asked. Elias watched carefully. Maybe history, maybe warning. The ground trembled again, stronger this time. Outside, thunder echoed through the canyon. "We need to leave," Tessa said over the comm channel. "Storm level rising fast." They turned back toward the entrance as wind roared outside. The storm hit hard. Dust and lightning filled the sky. Mechanical horses ran fast across the plains as Elias guided the group back toward the ranch. Mara held tightly as wind pushed against them. The world became red and loud. Behind them, a corporate skimmer appeared through the storm, moving fast. "They're following us," someone shouted. Elias' voice stayed calm. "Stay close, don't break formation." The chase across the alien plains felt like something from old cowboy stories, riders racing against danger, trying to reach home before being caught. Lightning struck nearby, sending sparks into the air. Mara's heart pounded, but she did not panic. She focused on staying steady, matching Elias' movements. Finally, the ranch gates opened ahead. Defense towers activated, sending warning pulses into the sky. The corporate skimmer slowed and turned away, avoiding direct confrontation. They made it back safely. That night, everyone gathered in the main building. The storm raged outside, shaking the walls. Elias replayed the holographic recording on a larger screen. Workers watched silently. "What does it mean?" Tessa asked. Myra stepped forward slowly. "I don't know, but it felt like it reacted when we got close." Elias looked at her. "You felt that too," she nodded, "like it was waiting." Silence filled the room. "If the corporations discover the entrance," Tessa said quietly, "they'll claim everything." Elias' expression hardened. "Then we make sure they don't." Later, Mara walked alone near the lake. The storm had softened into gentle rain, rare on this dry world. Elias joined her after a moment. "You did well today," he said. "I was terrified," she admitted. "Courage doesn't mean no fear," he replied. "It means moving anyway." She looked at him, noticing the tired lines around his eyes. "You carry a lot alone." He gave a small smile. "I'm used to it." "You don't have to be," she said quietly. The words hung between them, simple but heavy with meaning. For the first time, Mara felt something shift inside her. The ranch no longer felt like a place she was forced into. It felt like a place she wanted to protect. Suddenly, alarms sounded again. Tessa's voice came through the speakers. Multiple incoming signals, corporate vehicles approaching fast. Elias turned toward the horizon. Lights appeared in the distance, moving closer like a line of fire. "They're done watching," he said. Myra felt her heartbeat quicken. "Then what happens now?" Elias looked at her with calm determination. "Now," he said, "we stand our ground." The storm clouds parted slightly, revealing both moons shining above the ranch, silent witnesses to the battle that was about to begin. The alarms echoed across the ranch like thunder. Red lights flashed along the fences. Defense towers rose from the ground, turning slowly toward the horizon. Workers moved quickly but calmly, each person knowing their role. This was not the first time danger had come to Red Mesa 7, but this time felt different. Mara stood beside Elias near the command platform, watching the approaching vehicles. Several corporate skimmers moved in a straight line, their white lights cutting through the fading storm clouds. "They're not hiding anymore," she said. Elias nodded. "No." "They think they already won?" Tessa's voice came from the console. "Signal incoming, corporate authority request." Elias crossed his arms. "Put it through." A holographic figure appeared, a tall man wearing a perfect uniform, his expression calm but cold. "Mr. Kane," the man said smoothly, "I am Director Havern. You are currently occupying land of strategic importance. Under colonial expansion law, we request immediate surrender of property for scientific study." Mara felt anger rise. "Request," she whispered. "That looks more like an invasion." Elias ignored the comment and spoke directly. "This land is legally owned. Your request is denied." Havern smiled faintly. "We expected resistance. However, our legal team has identified a weakness in your claim. Your recent marriage contract creates shared ownership. If your partner agrees to transfer rights, the process becomes very simple." Mara felt every eye in the room turn toward her. The director's gaze shifted to her. "Miss Mara, you were under financial pressure when this agreement was made. We are prepared to offer full independence, wealth, and relocation off-world if you sign." Silence filled the room. Elias said nothing. He did not look at her. He gave her space to decide. Mara's heart beat fast. Part of her remembered the fear of losing everything, the endless struggle to survive. The offer promised safety, an easy way out. But then she thought about the ranch, the people, the work she had learned, the strange, glowing chamber beneath the canyon. and the quiet way Elias had always treated her with respect instead of control. She stepped forward. "I didn't come here because I had no choice," she said clearly. "I stayed because I chose to." Havern's smile faded slightly. "Think carefully, this world is dangerous." "We can give you comfort." Mara shook her head. "Comfort without freedom is just another cage." The hologram flickered. "Very well," Havern said coldly. "Then we proceed with Phase 2. The transmission ended. Outside, the corporate vehicles spread into formation. Elias turned to the team. "Defense positions, non-lethal measures first. We protect the land but no unnecessary harm." Everyone moved quickly. Mara followed Elias outside. The air smelled fresh after the storm. Both moons shone brightly above, casting long silver shadows across the plains. The first corporate skimmer stopped just beyond the boundary. Several drones rose into the air, scanning. Suddenly, the ground trembled. A deep pulse moved through the soil like a heartbeat. Mara looked toward the canyon. A soft blue glow spread across the land, faint but growing stronger. "The chamber," she whispered. Elias' eyes widened slightly. "It's activating." The ground beneath the ranch began to shine with thin lines of light, forming patterns that spread outward like a living map. The drones flickered as their systems struggled to process the energy. Workers stared in awe. "What is it doing?" Tessa asked over comms. Mara felt something strange, a warmth like recognition, without fully understanding why she stepped forward. "It's responding," she said softly. "To you?" Elias asked. She didn't know the answer, but she walked toward the glowing lines anyway. The light moved gently beneath her feet, guiding her toward the center of the ranch. The corporate director's voice suddenly returned through external speakers. "Unknown energy detected. Secure the site immediately." Several drones rushed forward. Before they could cross the boundary, the blue light expanded suddenly, creating a barrier of soft energy across the ranch perimeter. The drones stopped midair, unable to pass. Gasps filled the air. "It's protecting us," Tessa said in disbelief. Mara stood still, watching the light pulse around her. Images flashed briefly, shapes, stars, and symbols she could not fully understand. Elias stepped beside her. "Whatever this is," he said quietly, "it trusts you." She shook her head slightly. "Maybe it trusts the people who choose to protect this land." The energy barrier held strong. Corporate vehicles hesitated outside, unable to advance. Havern's voice returned, now sharp with frustration. "You don't understand what you're dealing with," Elias answered calmly. "Maybe neither do you." The director paused, studying the glowing barrier. Finally, his voice changed from confident to cautious. "We will withdraw for now." The vehicles turned slowly and retreated into the distance. Relief spread across the ranch like sunlight after a storm. Hours later, the blue glow faded, leaving only quiet starlight. Workers gathered near the main building, talking softly. Some laughed with relief. Others simply watched the horizon. Mara sat near the lake, exhausted but peaceful. Elias joined her, standing quietly beside her. "You saved us," he said. She shook her head. "We saved ourselves together," he nodded. Silence settled between them, but it felt comfortable now. "You know," she said after a moment, "when you made that offer, I thought my life was ending." "And now?" he asked. She looked across the open plains where the herd moved slowly under moonlight. "Now it feels like it's beginning." Elias smiled faintly, a rare, genuine smile. "I meant what I said before," he added gently. "If you ever want to change the terms, you can." Mara stood and faced him. "I don't want to stay because of a contract," she said. "I want to stay because I choose this place, and I choose us." The wind moved softly through the grass. Elias' expression softened, the weight he carried seeming lighter. Above them, the stars burned bright and endless. The ranch stood safe for now, protected by something ancient and powerful, and by the people who refused to give up their freedom. As dawn slowly approached, Mara and Elias walked side by side across the plains, no longer bound by debt or obligation, but by trust and shared purpose. The frontier stretched before them, wide and full of unknown paths, waiting for whatever came next.